Today on the Chat and Chew Show.
Yeah, I know, because there are times I can imagine there'd be times when it's like ready to throw in the towel on this, but
a lot of times, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you don't see on social media. But I'm like, let's debunk that myth right now. Don't buy into that hype. If you want to do it for more than just, I think it's going to be quick and easy and fun.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Carla, aka Home Cook K, and today I'm sharing one of my favorite fall dishes, butternut squash soup.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Chat and Chew Show. I'm your host, Betty.
And I'm Roxanne.
And we are super thrilled that you're with us today. I say that every time. I say super thrilled. I need to come up with some different words, but I'm so glad.
And I just say we're enthusiastic.
There you go.
And then like the hands makes it more real. Like it's like,
And we're so glad you clicked on, because you could be watching or listening to any other show, and we're glad you clicked on to the Chat and Chew Show. Let me just tell you this, our intention, the reason that we exist is to empower you to do your relationships better. All of us can improve on relationships. And don't think just romantic relationships. You could be in any kind of relationship. You could be a mom, an aunt, a wife, a grandma.
mm-hmm.
Give me some more, Roxy.
You could be an Airbnb host.
Oh,
you could be a flight attendant.
Okay.
You could be a nurse. Shout out.
Shout out to the nurses. Right. You could be a nanny.
Oh,
a Zoom teacher. God bless y'all.
Ooh, a stay-at-home parent teacher. Ooh.
Oh my. And have to work at home at the same time.
Yes.
Oh my. So in all of the relationships, oftentimes you want them to work, but sometimes they don't. And so we are here to give you tips and tools on how to make your relationships better. Today's going to be a great episode, so stay tuned.
So you want to start a business? Many people set out on the path for entrepreneurship, but few have the dedication to stay the course. In this episode of the Chat and Chew Show, we are joined by Andrena Sawyer, the author of The Misadventures of a New Entrepreneur, 5 Things They Won't Teach You in Business School. Andrena Sawyer is an author, consultant, strategist, and ministry founder whose background includes surviving the Civil War in Sierra Leone. Her authenticity and battle-tested principles inspire audiences to embrace their past, own their present, and maximize their future. She is the president of PER Consulting, an advisory firm for small to mid-sized nonprofits and businesses, and the founder of MCWEN, a faith-based network for women of color entrepreneurs. Her work with nonprofits and small businesses has earned her several awards, including the Black Business Review's 40 Under 40. Her other books include The Other Side of Assertiveness, Ponder It in Her Heart, and The Long Way Home. Buckle up, Chat Tribe, because today we're going to learn what's truly involved on the road to entrepreneurship.
So like promised, we have a special guest with us, Miss Andrena Sawyer, and we're excited to have you. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here. I'm doing really well. I'm happy it's, Friday Eve. I'm ready for this weekend, so I'm doing good.
Good. Well, we are thrilled to talk to you about your book. First of all, is this your latest book? Because I saw that you have several books.
Yes, it is. It's my latest book, but there's actually currently one that's slowly coming out in installments.
Okay,
and I can explain that later. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this book is called, you guys, check this out. This book is called The Misadventures of an Entrepreneur. 5 Things That They Don't Teach You in Business School. In that, The Misadventures. What do you mean by that title altogether?
So this was kind of like my tell-all, right? Which is like all the things that I wish I knew before I started a business. So instead of it just being an adventure, there were a lot of misses in the process for me those first few years. So this is me kind of just talking about the not so beautiful side of trying to walk in purpose and own a business, the stuff you don't see on social media.
Yeah. So your business is PER Consulting. Is that the name of your business?
It is, yes.
Okay, good. And you're consulting people in what business?
Yeah, so we work with nonprofits and small businesses, and we specialize in strategic planning. So essentially, when someone is at the idea stage of their project or their new business, and they're not quite sure how to structure it to get to implementation, we help kind of bridge that gap with a strategic plan for them.
Wow, wow. So we definitely want to talk to you about the 5 things that they don't teach you in business school. So before we get there, you had to be really brave to be able to start a company. I'm thinking, in myself, the idea of it sounds really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a 9-to-5er. I will go work for somebody in a minute, right? I don't mind punching the clock or any of that. So I don't know, Roxy, what do you think? Doesn't it take some courage to like step out and?
I mean, it does take a lot of courage. And then I love the idea of your business, because I feel like I'm the person that can have like a million ideas, but to actually put foot to the pavement and figure out where to focus all of that, that's my struggle.
Yeah. So let's hear just a couple of your misadventures. I think you would say there was some missteps.
Oh man. So it's funny that you say it takes a lot of courage, because the first few pages are me telling people, yes, it takes some courage, but it also takes a lot of like blind faith, almost to the point of like naivete, like just being a little bit naive about the process, because you constantly hit these walls as you're starting out. So let me back up and say, for me, when I started, there was a lot of adrenaline. So that's where the courage was coming from, the momentum was coming from. And then once the adrenaline wears off and you find that people aren't as supportive as they were when you first started, you start hitting these walls. And so you almost kind of have to just have tunnel vision, block everybody and everything out in order to keep going. So that's what the book is about, these 5 areas that are very much intertwined, but they're not very academic. And so you won't hear a professor talking about them, but they can make or break how those first few years go for you.
Wow. So you said there were people along the way who were like for you. So in the beginning stages, you said, hey, I'm going to start a business. And then you had a group of people around you like, yeah, go for it. So what made people fall off? Is it because it got hard or?
No, attention deficit, like it's
That is real. That is real. That is real.
And you know what, Betty? I had to learn to not take it personal. I don't think that I got that until maybe year 3.
Okay.
That it wasn't personal. So for every one of me and one of every per consulting, there are 10 others in existence and 10 others that are coming up. And so it's like, you and I constantly have things and people screaming at us on social media, on billboards, on radio, on all types of media. And so if one of those 10 happens to grab your attention, it's not malicious. It just is what it is. So so there were definitely people that were for me. There were some people that I felt like weren't, but they were very small in comparison to the people who meant well, but got distracted.
Okay. Did you start out in business with someone, or were you just kind of doing it by yourself?
Yeah, I was a solopreneur, so I started by myself, yeah. Okay. And I didn't mean to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to do consulting work in a field that I loved, but I found that the demand for the work was exceeding my capacity. So that's when I decided to scale and start hiring and doing all of that and to make an official business.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Exciting. Okay. So let's talk.
Just note real quick. So you said year 3, around year 3 is when you, so how long would you, so how long, because some people don't have a realistic view of how long it takes to build a business and really be successful, because we see, like you said, the social media just kind of blow up and it's like, oh, look, yesterday they had 5 followers and $2 and now they're there and the triple followers. So how long would you say it took you to really get stable in your business?
Yeah, so I'm coming up on year 10 now. In February to be year 10. And I don't think it really pivoted for me until year 7. Year 7 was when I finally felt like, okay, I'm seeing some fruit here. And it wasn't like a sporadic fruit, because that happens all throughout, but it was like, oh, there's some consistency. There's some systems now. So about 7 years.
Wow. I'm telling you, people who are just starting out don't want to hear that.
Yes.
We want to be like, next week we have blown up. That's what we want. Wow. So
we want to read her book and then get all the steps down and then practice them over the month, and then we've blown up.
right. That's right. That's right. We got it.
That's
Yeah.
exactly it.
The way you're talking about this makes me think of it's a race, not a sprint, but more of a marathon, right? And it seems like if you kind of go into it with a marathon mindset, then you'll know there are going to be times when it's difficult, and then you're just going to keep on going, and then you'll see fruit. Then you'll get to mile 26, but.
Yeah, it's so funny because that's exactly what it is. The introduction of the book starts off like this with a question, and it says, are you sure you want to be an entrepreneur?
Wow.
You probably want to be an entrepreneur because you've watched influencers, you see their money, you see their connections, you see their picture. Well, let me tell you about my first few years. And so I list a few things that happened to me that were not so nice or pretty. And then at the end of the introduction, I ask, are you sure you still want to be an entrepreneur? Read on.
Yeah. See, that's what you need. You need the realness, of it. But I think you are a testament to, you've been doing this for 10 years and you're seeing success, so that's really big.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it definitely has been a process. And for me, I got to a point where I'm in too deep now, so might as well keep going.
Yeah.
So, the last few years, that's kind of what pushed me until I hit that stability. And even, let me just, for anybody that's listening, stability doesn't look the same every day, every month, every year. So it's not like I'm just floating right now and the money's just rolling in. There's still the ebb and flow of it all, but you definitely get to a point where you're like, okay, I see that coming, I duck, I anticipate, it's a little bit more predictable.
Wow, that's good. That's good. We're going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we want to know what these 5 things are that they don't tell you in business school.
Now, a delicious word. Let's chew.
Hey, it's Carla, aka Home Cook K, and today I'm sharing one of my favorite fall dishes, butternut squash soup. This recipe has been a staple of mine for the past 5 years and has made its way to potlucks, Thanksgiving dinner, and my lunch bag. What makes this soup so great is the deep flavor that comes from roasting the butternut squash. It's what differentiates it from other recipes. So you start by first roasting your squash. Heat your oven to 425 degrees. Line your baking sheet with aluminum. Cut your squash in half lengthwise and scoop out the seeds and stringy interior. Place the squash cut side up on a baking sheet and brush it with a tablespoon of melted butter, season with salt and pepper, and place in the oven for about 50 minutes. Now you can start in the other components of the recipe. Peel, core, and cut the Granny Smith apple into medium dice, and cut half of an onion into medium dice. Heat a tablespoon of butter in a Dutch oven over medium heat, and when melted, add in the apple, onion, about a tablespoon of dried sage, salt, and pepper. Cook the ingredients for about 5 to 7 minutes and remove it from heat and set it aside until the squash is ready. When the squash is finished roasting, remove it from the oven and let it cool. Then you can remove the squash's skin and place in the Dutch oven with the apples and onions. Add 2 cups of broth and 2 cups of water plus 1.5 teaspoons of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and bring the pot to a boil over medium heat. Then reduce the heat and let it simmer for about 15 minutes. Remove it from heat and add in 1/3 cup of heavy cream. Next, blend the soup. I pureed it in small batches, but you can use an immersion blender. And you're done. You have a warm, comforting bowl of soup for the fall weather. To turn this into a vegan recipe, make sure that you use vegetable broth. If you want a creamy texture, replace the heavy cream with cashew cream. Alternatively, you can eat it without cream at all. It's just as tasty. I hope you enjoy.
Enjoying this conversation.
Good. You know who you remind me of? Do you know who Nicole Walters is?
I do not know.
Okay. You kind of put me in the same mind as her. She started her own, she's doing kind of the same kind of thing. I forgot what she calls hers. And she's probably have been doing it for 15, 20 years. But she was working for these very wealthy companies.
Uh-huh.
And she quit her job on one of the socials. She did it live. She quit her six-figure
Wow.
job live on one of the socials. So of course she went viral.
Oh
And
my
then she
God.
started.
Oh, is that the lady? I heard that story about
Yeah.
a lady that did that.
Yeah,
Oh.
she's African. Her husband's white. They live in Atlanta now, and she's like really doing it. But you put me in the mind of her. I don't know how long she's been going, but she is like blown up. But
thank you. I'll take that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, because there are times I can imagine there'd be times when it's like ready to throw in the towel on this, but
A lot of times, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what you don't see on social media. But I'm like, let's debunk that myth right now. Don't buy into that hype. If you want to do it for more than just, I think it's going to be quick and easy and fun.
Yeah.
You stay motivated though all that time, like 10 years, like. Well,
yeah. So,
I know.
Because I feel like I have attention deficit. Like,
right.
Even if I start something, I'm like, all right, I'm over it now.
Yeah. So the short answer to that is my motivation changed in different seasons. So the first season was a lot of just adrenaline, the newness of it. Like I was doing something that a lot of my peers weren't doing. So there was a lot of like patting on the back. So it was a good ego booster. After I started hitting the walls, my motivation became, well, I'm too ashamed now to like go back to like, because so many people were like excited about this thing. So the pride in a way kind of kept me going. Then after that, my motivation became, I'm in too deep. I have to see this thing to the end now. Like that ambition, that drive became my motivation. And now it's because I'm seeing fruit. So that's my motivation is like, well, if I'm seeing fruit at 10, I wonder what this could look like at 15 or 20. Like, can I build something for my children? How far can I take this thing?
Yeah.
And that's kind of my motivation.
Wow. That's good.
I love it. I like that.
Yeah.
Because I have that kind of fantasy, follow your passion and everything will fall in front of you.
Yeah.
Brick road will open up and take you straight to your money.
Yeah.
Like
such a lie. It's such a lie. And I write this in the book, right? Because I'm like, passion will not put food on your table, but what it will do is that it's going to help you sleep at night, right? Like that fulfillment definitely helps you just like, I spent my day doing what I love, helping people, I feel fulfilled, but it doesn't put food on the table, you know? So you gotta like merge the passion with like the technical stuff.
Wow.
I like that.
Good. Yeah. That's really good. Yeah.
This last show.
Yeah. Why do they say, and then we're going to get to the 5 things here in a second, but why do they say, when you do what you love, the money will come? It's like, you could be a painter or whatever, and the money is not coming. What's going on?
So I do believe that. I believe that if you do what you love, the money will come. But there's a word that's missing in that sentence, which is if you do what you love well, the money will come. So
wow. I'm about to write that down.
Y'all taking all my Twitter quotes.
I love yes.
If you do what you love well. Because the well part is like stewardship, right? So it's like taking the classes that are boring, like setting up the systems, that's not the glamorous part of it. Talking to people outside of your comfort zone, like working 12 hours instead of 8 standard, like that's the well part, the stewardship well. So the stewardship part is not just like, I'm doing what I love. Like, are you doing it in a way that is gonna bring you a return?
Wow, that is huge. That's good. You're right. A word is missing. Love well. That's good. That's good.
And well, very deep word because it includes discipline.
Yes.
All of that into that. If we just noted that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like when people say, if you follow your passion, the money will come. In my mind, it's like skipping down a yellow brick road, and then there's like a pot of gold at the end, and like your friends are with you. Like it's just a whole fairy tale.
It is. There's like the Bill Gates, I think it was like 11 years before Amazon, before Microsoft broke through. Apple was like 20 years of work before they finally broke through. So I'm like, the yellow brick road does exist, but the overnight part of it is not real. It's not honest for everybody.
Yeah, and we watch a 2-hour movie about their story, and we think like it all happened in that 2 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
The policy.
Yeah. So if you're ready to dive into starting your own business or going in a different direction, to me, what you're saying is think long haul, think systems, and that's something we don't even have time to talk about. Yes. And then just think tenacity. I mean, you just got to be kind of a bulldog and just up and down, just keep moving forward, and then you can see fruit from, the direction that you're going in.
Yeah.
I think something that you said too, because our show is about helping people, do relationships better. And you said something that's so crucial that I hope people hear, that you had cheerleaders at the beginning and then people started falling off. Don't let that deter you from pursuing your dream, because you can be like, oh shoot, nobody, I called, that kind of thing. And then you want to give up, but you got to keep, if you have people around you cheering you on, keep moving. If you don't, keep moving. That's what I'm taking from it.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly it. Like the purpose, like Roxanne asked, what keeps you motivated? Like the problem with like the social media kind of culture is that you get addicted to the likes and the comments. So it's very like external. So if that's the reason that's pushing you, you'll soon learn that you just can't depend on it. So it has to be something like much deeper that keeps you just going through the hard times, through the lonely parts, through the, all of it. It just keeps you stable and anchored.
Mm-hmm. Wow, this is good. Okay, so let's talk about 5 things they don't teach you in business school.
Yeah.
So
the 5 things are mental health, how mental health plays into it, your social health, emotional health, physical health, and then spiritual health.
Okay.
So like I said earlier, these are not very like academic things when you think about business, but they all, again, make or break how well you do as an entrepreneur.
So just give us a little bit. I know people are going to read the book, but just give us a little bit. You said mental health. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so the mental health piece, like just being kind of fixed and positioned to know that this is going to be hard. And just resolving that despite how hard it gets, I'm going to push through. So, I give an example in the book of having like anxiety attacks when I had to deal with some things in business, when I looked at my bank account or when a paycheck was late for one of my employees, and just kind of navigating through that. Just because I have to go to the bathroom because I'm having an anxiety attack doesn't mean the entire company stops. Wow. And so part of my job as an entrepreneur is, how do I navigate like my mental health, making sure that I'm like anchored, I'm working through whatever depression, anxiety, whatever challenges are coming, but it doesn't affect everybody else and it doesn't affect the fluidity of what we do. So I talk about that, the emotional health. One of the things that happened when I first started my business is I was engaged to be married. And within those first couple of years, my engagement got called off. And so I remember like being on the couch, like balled up and crying at night. And then in the morning, putting on my makeup and smiling in the client's face. And so as an entrepreneur, you're not exempt from like a loss. You're not exempt from mourning. But people are looking at you like this. And you got to figure out like, how do I keep my emotional stuff intact without denying it or downplaying it and still push this vision forward?
Yeah. Would imposter syndrome fall under mental and emotional in your mind? Are you
Absolutely.
Okay. I mean, even with us doing this podcast, you look at the Oprahs of the world and the whoever else, she's like our master. Like Oprah is like the master, right? And you're like, oh my gosh, I can never do that. Then you look at people in your stage of life who are a little bit ahead of you, and you're like, I can't do that. So even starting here, I had to deal with thoughts of, who do you think you are?
Yeah.
I mean, who's gonna want to listen to you?
Yeah.
I believe that I have something to say and that we have something to say, but just having to, like you're saying, deal with that stuff that runs through your mind, or even, your emotions.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's good because I'm not a mental health expert, right? But I have mental health. And so one of the things that I talk about is on the technical side of business, you have like marketing, right? You have your branding piece. Well, if I have to convince everybody else that I'm good via my branding and my messaging and marketing, and I don't believe it myself, eventually that contradiction will begin to show itself.
Wow.
And so if I really want to be authentic as an entrepreneur, I have to deal with some of this stuff. I can't keep it hidden forever, because it eventually will make its way over to the technical parts of business. Or even with the social health or the emotional health, like as a leader, there's certain competencies, right, that you have to exude. And so if my social health is leading me to like want to hide from everybody else, like I can't afford to do that. I got to face my clients. There's just so many things that are intertwined. And we want to think we can compartmentalize things as an entrepreneur, but we don't have that luxury at the start of the journey.
Wow, that's good. So mental, emotional, what's the other one?
So mental, emotional, social, physical health, and spiritual health.
What do you mean by social?
So the title of that chapter is called "Sorry, I Can't Hang With You Right Now. I'm in the middle of grinding."
Not right now.
It's such a long title now, but it's basically it's basically this process I went through where all my friends were like, "You've changed. Like you don't hang out like you used to." And I took pride in the fact that I was like, "Listen, I don't have time. I gotta get these bills paid." But eventually you get lonely and you realize that you drove people away because you were busy grinding. It's funny because the producer, Vanessa, earlier was saying one of the things she's learning right now is just to separate the work and life. And so work-life balance with social health is huge as an entrepreneur. Like, no, you can't grind your way to success by itself. Like you need people. You need to be a well-rounded person.
Yeah. Have your friends and all that, still some friends intact. Because some people, I think they think, oh, you're doing something different now, then you think you're better than us. Those type of friends, maybe aren't who you have in your immediate circle. They could be kind of, we don't believe throwing people away, so they could be kind of your second tier group of friends,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you said some stuff already that just is like, wow. So do what you love well. I mean, I'm gonna paint that on my wall, because you get, like you said, you get this thing in your head, just do what you love, but do what you love well.
Yeah.
Roxy was like, and that means discipline.
Yes.
That means
the D word that we don't like. Yeah.
People make it sound it's like you're just gonna have fun and then get paid for it, and it's like that's not how it works.
It's not. It really isn't. And I wish people would be more honest, because some of our clients that come in are people who are like on their third, fourth consultant, because they spent money with this ideal in mind, like, oh, it's just going to happen overnight. And then they had to go back and regroup and, save some more money or find a different partner or whatever. And so I'm like, if we were honest from the start, we probably could save people a lot of headache in this process. Yeah.
Good. All right. So tell us, physical, things they don't tell you in business school.
Yeah. So, and I was very candid about this entire process. One of the things that happened to me after I hit that wall is that I gained a lot of weight. And again, because a lot of the things are intertwined. So because I was embarrassed, I was ashamed, I had no work-life balance, I wasn't putting physical activities into my schedule, my health started to decline. Even just like, being mindful of what I ate. There were times when I was so broke when I was starting out, like to even prioritize, let me go get vegetables rather than meat, wasn't like something that I was intentional about. I was trying to get ramen. I was trying to get whatever was least expensive, whatever was accessible. And so my physical health just fell on the totem pole of priorities, because all I could see was just, I need to grind. Too many people are depending on me. And so that chapter of the book is really telling entrepreneurs, listen, if you're in your sick bed, you're no good to anybody. So it seems counterintuitive for you to say, I need to put myself first in this area, but you really, really do.
Wow. Yeah. And then spiritual.
Yeah, so the spiritual piece is really me and my journey. And I realized that some people, not everybody, of course, who is an entrepreneur is spiritual. But for me, because my Christian faith is such a core piece of who I am, I talk about how that plays into it. And one of the things that drives me is just feeling like I believe God has called me to the marketplace for this reason, right? Part of this reason. And so how that helped me when I was sad, when I was anxious, how my faith in God kind of picked me up and kept me energized and going. And then I share this one story of what the turnaround was for my business. And I don't know if I have time to like tell the story.
Yeah,
it was such a God moment. So essentially in year 3, I hit this drought, right? Where we weren't making a lot of money. So I talk about 1 month, I think total we made about $350 as a company. And you could, right. Roxy's like, yeah, but literally $350. And out of this, we have rent, we have utilities, we have software, we have payroll. How far is $350 going to go? And so in that drought, I thought, well, let me just get creative. Let me do this. Let me do that. Let me try anything possible. None of it worked. And the turning point came a couple months later when a former colleague I hadn't seen in about 10 years called me. And she said, hey, Andrena, I see your newsletter. Do you do this type of work? Howard University is putting out this contract, and I would like for you to bid on it. And it was such a God moment because 1, I hadn't seen or talked to this lady in over 10 years. 2, I wasn't necessarily the most qualified for that position. 3, when she said bid, what she really meant was like, send me some paperwork. So I didn't have to compete. And this was like, at that time, it was the largest one-time contract we had ever gotten. Wow. And it literally fell out of the sky. So after months of me like, let me do this, let me do this, let me do this, and none of it worked, it was, to me, it was such a God moment. And so I include that story in the spiritual health piece to say, stay focused, especially if you're a Christian entrepreneur, like, don't leave that part out thinking your work is gonna get it done. Like there are things that God is doing on your behalf, favor that's working that you don't even know. Your name is coming up in rooms that aren't even on your purview right now. So just stay focused and stay anchored. So that's
I love that. That's huge. I love those. I love just so happen stories.
Yeah.
You know, I love those. It's like, I just so happen to see someone, but you're right. I think, you know, for me too, my faith and trusting God is hugely important. And so for me, I don't think that's something you should leave out at all, because there could be times, like you said, when you're like really down and low or don't know how it's going to happen. And then God can just give you a word, or, you know, he can show you a direction, you know, and just turn things around, you know. That doesn't always happen, but when it does happen, man, I think it's important to give him credit for it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that turnaround was kind of like the breakthrough. I know breakthrough is kind of a church word that people use, but it literally was a breakthrough, because after that, it was like clients I'd been chasing started calling us. People that I might have met at an event that we were vendors at maybe 6 months earlier, all of a sudden, literally Betty would say the words, hey, I just happened to find your card. What do you mean you just happened to find my card?
Yeah.
But it was like just such a God season, and it was clear that the drought was about like coming back to the center of like, I called you to this thing, let me work it out. So.
And just imagine if you had quit, you know, you would have missed all of this, and then you would have, you know, could have gone a different direction, whatever. But
yeah,
I don't know, Roxy, what you got out of it, but I'm just getting out of it consistency, tenacity, keep it moving.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and you have to be open to that too, I feel like, because you do have a tendency, like you said, to focus on what you're doing. And like, I'm putting on, if you focus on what, like, yes, you grind, but at the same time, if you leave that opening for God to work, then like you just don't know what could happen because your view is only but so far.
Yeah,
You know?
it's true. It's like the purpose thing is so like multi-layered, right? Because it's about your business, but more than that, it's about the impact of your business. And so that's not just performance based. So it's about your character. It's about the experience that people have when they interact with you. And I believe all of that is part of our testimony. And so, yes, work on your business, but leave room. One of my mentors had to remind me in this season, hey, you're just a steward. It means God is the owner, you are the manager. So you back up and you do what the owner says. And if you can't hear the owner correctly, stop what you're doing, right? Long enough so that you can hear what he wants you to do, but it's not your business. Because just like the turnaround came, I know plenty of businesses, and I share a story in the book of one person I personally admired who was like miles and miles ahead of me. And I happened to go on social media one day and he put out a press release that he was quitting. He couldn't take it anymore. And he was in his 30s and he said, I'm moving back home because this business has drained me of all my resources. And it hurt me personally as if it was like my experience because everything the press release said, I had been there. So it could easily go one way or another. And for me, I think the only thing that's kind of kept me to 10 years has really been the grace of God. And so that's what that is. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this was so good. So why don't you tell everybody who's listening where they can find you?
Yes. So online, of course, what everybody's doing. The website is perkconsulting.net. I also have a new initiative for women called McQuinn. So McQuinn.org is another one. And then I'm on social media on Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook at Andrena Sawyer.
Andrena, we have got to get you back on here. This was such an amazing conversation. Again, thank you so much for hanging with us. And then everybody else, we also invite you to go to the Chat and Chew show on YouTube. You're probably already there. And then subscribe to us because we have an episode that comes out every Tuesday, a new episode. So we look forward to seeing you next time. And thank you for joining us at the Chat and Chew show. Bye.
Bye.
This show was brought to you by the Chat and Chew Company. Music by Elwood Jones. Lyrics by Roxanne. Bring a Chat and Chew live event to your organization. Contact us at chatandchewshow@gmail.com.